The Imperial mode of living.
Today, we don't have classic empires anymore, but we still have an imperial mode of living and production. The formal empire has been replaced by the informal imperialism and exploitation worldwide. This imperial mode of living causes a myriad of problems: the climate crisis, exploitation of labor, species extinction, war on resources, and massive inequalities. These problems are even recognized by the most people.
The climate crisis is not our fight alone, it's a global fight.
I mean, you can't live sustainable today. It's insane. Just by basically by paying taxes, you are contributing to environmental destruction, basically.
How can it not be existential when 85% of people in extreme poverty live in the 20 countries most vulnerable to climate change?
All seem to agree that a fundamental change needs to happen urgently, even if they probably do not exactly mean the same thing by system change.
But then why is the change not happening?
It is not happening because of the imperial mode of living and production.
What's this?
What the hell is that?
What's this?
Okay. Let's take a closer look to understand how the imperial mode of living works and explain why change is so hard to achieve. The concept of the imperial mode of living was elaborated by the political scientists Ulrich Brand and Markus Wissmann and published in 2017. This diagram shows how the imperial mode of living prevents a good life for all.
Honestly, I don't understand anything. What do you really mean?
Okay. Let me bring you through it by car. Please take a seat. Driving a car is a daily practice for millions of people. In the EU, there are 500 million people driving more than 290 million cars.
Yeah, a car holds the promise of freedom. Baby, you can drive my car. Yes, I'm gonna be a star.
And this daily practice is a perfect example of the exploitation of the biosphere. The exploitation of the biosphere means the destruction of nature by the way we consume and produce. Although we know cars are harmful to nature, most of us drive them every day. The exploitation of the biosphere goes along with the exploitation of labor. Think about where the fuel for our cars comes from. Fossil fuels are extracted from the ground, often under terrible working conditions and with the poor environmental standards. And the spilled oil at sea and on land kills both animals and plants. That is something we don't actually pay for at a gas station. The costs are not only outsourced in space, but also in time. This means it is not only us who are paying for the fuel we use, but also our kids and grandkids. Another facet of the imperial mode of living is that it intensifies and expands, as it is characteristic of many empires.
What do you mean?
Well, the desire to drive a car has spread all across the planet. More than 1.3 billion passenger cars travel the roads of the world today. In Asia, the rate of motorization increased by 130% between 2005 and 2015. Over time, cars have gotten larger, heavier, and faster.
But isn't it a good thing that all people can move freely and independently?
They can't. Because even if more and more people have access to cars, automobility stays exclusive. A mobility system that is built on cars automatically excludes certain groups of people, like those who can't afford a car or aren't able to drive one. What makes it even more exclusive is the fact that our planet can't support itself if all people would drive cars as much as Europeans do. Now we look at the foundations of the imperial mode of living. One aspect is the infrastructure that manifests our ideas into the built environment.
What do you mean by that?
Driving a car needs infrastructure, roads, parking spaces, highways, and so on. And once this infrastructure is built, we develop day-to-day habits that even increase the demand for car infrastructure. This pressures more people to drive cars, therefore more roads are needed. Cars use a big portion of public space. Highways, streets, services for cars, and other infrastructures are shaping the way our cities are constructed and how they look and feel in most places. Currently, driving a car is pushed by the tax system, by laws, or by the demand on the labor market. Institutions maintain the current state by making rules that stabilizing this existing system. The problem is that all institutions follow their own agenda, which does not necessarily lead to a good life for all. Currently, the institutions we are talking about are quite often promoting so-called apparent solutions though. These apparent solutions are mostly ineffective against the problems caused by the imperial mode of living. They are a big stabilizer to the system, as they look like progress, but it is always more of the same. Thus, apparent solutions are the last foundation of the imperial mode of living.
But what can I do? Even if I would like to, I couldn't afford to buy all these fancy fair trade and organic products.
Shifting the blame onto the individual and the choices of the consumer is a wonderful solution, a wonderful apparent solution. Good products, which were not produced by the exploitation of humans or nature, must become normal, and not only a privilege for those who have a fat wallet. The concept of the imperial mode of living and production has been developed in order to show the systematic level of modern exploitative structures and not to point the finger on individuals. In this system, it is almost possible not to live at the expenses of others. We are all part of it.
So, we need systemic changes.
You got it! So, thanks for driving through the scheme of the imperial mode of living and production with me.
Yeah. Now I am really no longer in the mood to drive a car. We should abandon them.
Even if I would agree with that, we both know that it's not about cars. They were only an example to illustrate the underlying concept of the imperial mode of living. We could also take another trip through the concept by plane, where I show you how imperial flying is. Are you up for that?
Nope.
Or shall I make a thread on the manufacturing of a shirt? Or plant an idea into your head by talking about the fruit production?
I get it. It is about the way we make and consume products.
Yes, it goes even beyond products. Care work is another example. It is exploiting labor and is even expanding as more and more of the work is integrated into the market. And it...
Stop! If everything is interconnected, there is no way out.
As everything is connected, you influence the whole system by changing something anywhere, even something tiny. So don't overthink. Connect with others in your community and start making a difference.
Okay, but how?
The solidary mode of living is coming soon.